Part 22. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 213. A month later, a town was built again south of Xiahe village, 5 miles away from Xiahe village and also 5 miles away from Lushwiven town. The new town was named Nanhe town. Before the new town was built, many nearby people who had heard about the reputation of Greenwater Bay town came to seek refuge. When the new town was built, 2,000 to 3,000 people immediately moved in. In the next few days, under the vigorous publicity sent by Chen Ronghuo, more people came to defect to him one after another. Many of these people who came to seek refuge were from villages in the former Angsha town, Iron Blood town, Black Tiger town and Tongluo town. Regardless of men, women, old or young, Chen Ronghuo would not refuse almost all of these people. Even seeing that the results were good, he continued to arrange manpower and began to build a fourth town northwest of Xiahe village. At the same time, after waiting for a long time for the Changsun family and the three major towns to attack, but they never came, he suddenly announced that he would give two names to Greenwater Bay town. One name is still Greenwater Bay town, and the other name is Beiwu town. As soon as the name of Beiwu town came out, Sima Zhao's heart was immediately known to everyone on the road. And Chen Ronghuo wanted this effect. Although his current strength is not bad, because the Lord burns the power of faith in his own territory, his strength will greatly increase, so he wants to rush into the eldest son's family, or his hometown in the three major towns, and kill them, but he has no strength. Catch. However, if these people dared to attack him, he would not mind killing a few strong men to greatly expand his territory. He changed the name of Lushwiven town to Beiwu town. This person is really arrogant. To the northeast of Beiwu Island, there is a city with a population of 100,000 people. This city is the White Mist city of the Changsun family. Just after Chen Ronghuo renamed Lushwiven town to Beiwu town, the three heirs of Changsun Zhengxing gathered together in the Lord's mansion in Beiwu city, with angry looks on their faces. Chen Ronghuo changed the name of Lushwiven town to Beiwu town, obviously not taking his eldest grandson's family seriously at all. Changsun Ping was sitting on the main seat, with a look of anger on his face. However, his city was not bad. After being slightly angry, he shook his head and smiled. After such a long time, I even had doubts about my previous guesses. But this time, Chen Ronghuo acted like this, which made me more sure of my previous guess. The goal of the three major towns is to dominate Beiwu Island. Under this circumstance, Chen Ronghuo changed the name of Lushwiven town to Beiwu town, which was not only a provocation to the Changsun family, but also a provocation to the three major towns. Chen Ronghuo is able to manage his territory to this point, and his methods are absolutely extraordinary. How could he do such an unwise thing and provoke our Changsun family and the three major towns at the same time? If my prediction is correct, he is going to use this method to lure us into being fooled and attack them. Brother Chang Sunping's fourth brother Chang Sun's Hung said, then what should we do next? Can't we just let Chen Ronghuo continue to be so arrogant? What if we just let him continue to be arrogant? Chang Sun smiled flatly, holding the pearl of wisdom in his hands and said, only the one who laughs to the end is the real winner. We continue to wait. As long as the third sister breaks through to the fourth level, we can wipe out Beiwu Island and bring it back under the control of our eldest grandson family. By then, you will know that Long Fi Hung and others are just clowns. However, if we cannot calm down and fall into their trap, all our previous efforts will be in vain. At the same time, in the former Aoki town, Long Fi Hung, Ma Tianxiao and Tan Xiong also got together again. Brother Long, what do you think Chen Ronghuo wants to do? Ma Tianxiao frowned. The news that Chen Ronghuo changed the name of Lushwiven town to Beiwu town reached them immediately. Chen Ronghuo has been recruiting people like crazy during this period. Using the methods of several major towns, he has naturally already penetrated his men into the interior of Lushwiven town. Although Chen Ronghuo knew about this, he ignored it. Because of the ancient books, these spies were as eye-catching in his eyes as big rats running in front of him during the day. In this case, whatever he wanted these spies to find out, these spies would be able to find out. If you don't want them to detect anything, they won't be able to detect anything. Therefore, these spies are his best microphones for him. What to do? Long Fihung sneered. Of course they are provoking us and want us to attack them, so that the Changsun family can sneak attack on our town. Actually, I was still a little doubtful about my previous guess. But once they make this move, I am sure that they will be inseparable from the Changsun family. Otherwise, is Chen Ronghuo a fool? He dares to challenge our two families alone? That's true. Ma Tianxiao looked deeply convinced and just followed him and said, but this person is so rampant, and he is right on the edge of Brother Long's important town of Longtan. Brother Long, can you really endure it? Haha, Long Fihung burst into laughter. Only when you endure it for a while can you succeed in a lifetime. Just let him go crazy. Only the person who laughs at the end can laugh for a lifetime. Next, you just have to wait and see. Long Fihung's eyes flashed with mystery. He told Ma Tianxiao and Tan Xiong before that he was waiting for the return of the person who set up the plan on Black Mist Island, which was true. But in addition to this, during this period, he was also trying to break through to the 4th level. If he could break through to the 4th level, he would no longer be at a loss when facing the person who went to Black Mist Island to make arrangements. Another month passed in a flash. Chen Ronghuo started to build the 4th town in the northwest of Xiahe village, and it was rebuilt. This was originally a village called Shilin village, so the new town was directly called Shilin town. So far, including Greenwater Bay town, Chen Ronghuo has already controlled 5 towns. At the same time, because of his increased publicity during this period, Shilin town has only been established for a few days, and the permanent population has reached 10,000. So he almost became a viscount with a population of 50,000 or 60,000. But in this way, the food he had accumulated for a year before was enough to support these people, but he was unable to expand again. At the same time, it was difficult to find a huge flat field like the land near Xiahe village in his territory. What are these people thinking? I've tried so hard to show myself, why don't you come and touch me? After such a long wait, Chen Ronghuo was really speechless. Because the cause and effect involved in this matter is too big, it is impossible for him to figure out the cause without using the power of the ancient book. So until now, he doesn't know what the Changsun family and the 3 major towns are thinking. Thanks to the burning of the times for 100 coins at landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depang. Chapter 214. Go and take a look. Ho-san should be close to breaking through to the 3rd level during this period. On this day, Chen Ronghuo walked out of the Lord's mansion and walked to the underground training ground of Lushwiven town. Meow. The fat cat who was playing outside saw him coming out and immediately turned into a bolt of lightning and ran into his arms. Master. At the same time, a fat boy of 11 or 12 years old also stood up from under the colorful spiritual tree, walked respectfully to Chen Ronghuo, and bowed. This kid is none other than Fatty Yu. During this period of time, he has been accepted as the 2nd disciple by Chen Ronghuo. At this time, he was holding a fragrant grilled fish with steam rising in his hand. Half of the grilled fish was already eaten. You can vaguely see butter around his mouth. Big Fatty Yu's cultivation method is somewhat special. He only needs to cook every day, and the speed of absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth will skyrocket. And the more delicious and better the quality of the food he makes, the faster his cultivation will improve. In addition, the food he made can fully bring out the nutrients of the food, and he can also use his own abilities to give these foods more attributes. Therefore, now in the entire Greenwater Bay town, the food of all practitioners has been Chen Ronghuo handed it to him. Fortunately, he mastered one of the 9 pots of gluttony. Once he opened the pot, he could satisfy everyone on the island for a day. Chen Ronghuo glanced at Big Fatty Fish. You are a little man now, don't just eat and play every day. You have to take responsibility in the future. Now the town is in dire need, so you can contribute a little and make a few more pots of food every day and sell them. Yes, master. Fatty Fish lowered his head, his little face wrinkled. Shamao poked his head out of Chen Ronghuo's arms and glanced at Fatty Yu with satisfaction. I asked you to make 2 grilled fishes, but you only gave me 1 instead of 1.5. Will you be punished now? And you too. Chen Ronghuo stroked Shamao's body with his hand. You are now a 3rd level demon, so you should think more about your abilities when you have nothing to do. Look at Xiadi, look at you, how fat are you? After swallowing the earth dragon earthworm in the important town of Mentang, Fat Mao broke through and became a 3rd level demon shortly after returning. Even in addition to this, it also took away the earth dragon earthworm's innate ability of escape. In other words, today's fat cats are not only flying cats, but also cats that can escape from the ground. You think I'm fat? Shamao suddenly became unhappy when he heard this. When you chased me, no, when you accepted me, why didn't you dislike me for being fat? It jumped out of Chen Ronghuo's arms with a pop, jumped a few times, and ran to the foot of the wall to sulk alone. Chen Ronghuo shook his head and ignored Shamao. This guy is a super optimist. He bet that if it sulked for more than 3 minutes, he would dare to jump into the green water river in front of the entire town. Then he told Big Fatty Fish a few more words and walked out of the Lord's mansion. Meow. After Chen Ronghuo left, Fat Mao blinked and looked outside for a few times, then looked at most of the fragrant grilled fish in Big Fatty Fish's hand, licked his beard, endured it again, and finally couldn't hold it back any longer. A few jumps, and arrived in front of Big Fatty Fish. Uncle Fatty. Seeing Fat Cat, Fatty Fish's hand immediately tightened his grip on the grilled fish. The fat cat squirmed and walked on the catwalk with a straight face. Now the town is in dire need, and as the master's disciple, you must take responsibility. Just now the master asked you to make a few more pots of food and sell them if you have nothing to do. Just do it now. Yes, Uncle Fat. Big Fatty Fish had no choice but to turn around and leave. Etc. Just as Big Fatty Fish turned around, Fat Mao blocked him again. Why are you holding half a grilled fish when you go to cook? Do you still want to cook and eat at the same time? You are a chef, don't you know that this is unscrupulous, unhygienic, and immoral? Here you go, can't you give me this half of the grilled fish to Uncle Fatty? Fatty Fish said with a sad face as he reluctantly handed the half of the grilled fish to Fat Cat. Today, he performed extremely well and made these 2 grilled fishes. For now, these 2 grilled fishes are already the pinnacle of his skills. He estimated that it would be difficult for him to cook grilled fish of this level again for at least half a month. Meow. Upon hearing this, Shamao immediately stepped forward with great pride and took the grilled fish over without any ceremony. In fact, with his strength, he could actually snatch this half of the grilled fish away from Big Fatty Fish. But the fat cat is also the elder of the big fat fish. He's a shameless cat and doesn't bother to do that. The underground training ground in Greenwater Baytown. Roar. 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 As soon as Chen Ronghuo walked in, he heard a deafening shout. In the training ground, Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui were fighting fiercely with Hosan and Hosan's 200 men. The Earth Ape demonic skill contains several secret martial arts. Among these secret martial arts, there is a stick technique called the Earth Demon Ape Stick. During this time, Hosan and his men were practicing the Earth Demon Ape Stick. The Earth Demon Ape Sticks, which were 3 to 4 meters long, were as heavy as 10,000 stone. They were smashed down hard, causing Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui, who had already broken through to the 3rd level, to be restrained in every way. Open. Zhu Deipen roared angrily, and struck out with the palm. The majestic blood energy was released like pulp, and with a roar, it turned into a bloody palm print the size of a house, and struck forward. Hoo hoo! In front, Ho San's men saw the palm print coming. They all raised their sticks, released their blood energy, and struck out together. As the wind howled, the demonic ape sticks swung out their after images and gathered together in one place, like fan bones, holding up the blood. Like a blood fan, they collided with Zhu Deipen's bloody palm prints with a roar. With a loud bang, both of them were annihilated. This is the characteristic of the Earth Demon Ape Kung Fu. Long-term practice allows practitioners to gather their strength in one place. Ordinary cultivators, even if they were more than 22nd level cultivators, a few would die if they received Zhu Deipen's palm. But Ho San's men, because they practiced the Earth Demon Ape skill, were like a group and were not afraid of Zhu Deipen's attack at all. Just like the group of iron-eating fish that Chen Ronghuo encountered in the sea. The original group of hundreds of first-level iron-eating fish, under the command of a second-level iron-eating fish king, was able to exert a power comparable to that of a third-level fish. And now, roar! In the field, Ho San suddenly let out a loud roar and his body joints crackled. His height suddenly increased from 2.5 meters to nearly 3 meters. Chen Ronghuo kept half of the power of faith he had obtained from the important town of Mentang, and the other half was rewarded to Ho San. Now nearly 3 months have passed, Ho San finally broke through to the third level. Boom! After Ho San broke through, he let out a loud roar and his fighting spirit soared. Gathering the strength of his men, he jumped up and struck Zhu Deipen hard. The huge stick fell from the sky. Zhu Deipen had no idea that Ho San would break through. He didn't have time to dodge or even defend, so he could only raise his head, release his immortal blood, and push upward. Boom! Ho San was merciless, and he struck down a mighty stick. It was like hitting a pool of water, causing ripples of blood. The immortal blood that Zhu Deipen held up was smashed away, and then Ho San's stick came down again, hitting Zhu Deipen's head hard with a clang. Time freezes. Zhu Deipen staggered, and finally sat down on the ground with a thud. Ho ho ho! Seeing this scene, Ho San's men all roared. Ho San! After falling to the ground, Zhu Deipen shook his head and suddenly shouted, "Are you trying to kill me?" Ho San curled his lips and ignored this guy. This guy is too resistant to beatings. If it were any other third-level cultivator, most of them would have suffered brain damage after suffering the blow just now. But Zhu Deipen and Li Haishui didn't know what kind of secret skills they had practiced. Not only their physical recovery power was astonishingly strong, but their defense power was also hopelessly strong. Of course, the reason why he hit Zhu Deipen on the head with a stick just now was not only because he knew Zhu Deipen would be fine, but also because he was taking revenge. Ever since Zhu Deipen and Li Haishui broke through to the third level more than 2 months ago, they have been staying here, pretending to be helping them practice. During this time, he and his men were really tortured. But now, as he breaks through to the third level, and his men have experienced battles for a long time and become stronger and stronger, everything will be different. In the distance, Chen Ronghuo saw the scene and a smile appeared on his face. Zhu Deipen and Li Haishui, because of the infusion of immortal demon blood, their true strength is no worse than that of ordinary mid-level third-order cultivators. After Ho San broke through, he led his 200 demon ape warriors to defeat Zhu Deipen and Li Haishui. One can imagine how powerful they are. Moreover, this was before the demonic ape battle formation equipment he asked Gao Yan to build had yet to be completed. If the demonic ape battle formation equipment is completed and Ho San leads these people, they may be comparable to a third-level late-stage cultivator. Ho San. With this in mind, Chen Ronghuo walked towards Ho San and others. Lord. Seeing Chen Ronghuo, Ho San immediately came up to him. Zhu Deipen and Li Haishui also ran over quickly. As for Ho San's subordinates, they all showed admiration for Chen Ronghuo. It has been less than 2 years since they fell into Chen Ronghuo's hands. But now, their strength is something they never dared to hope for in the past. Congratulations on your breakthrough to level 3. Chen Ronghuo smiled and said. Ho San showed a look of shame and said, the Lord has provided me with so many resources, but I haven't made a breakthrough until now. Chen Ronghuo shook his head, your path is different from others. Others are following a personal path, and in terms of strength alone, they are certainly better than you. And you are taking the path of leading troops. If you lead your 200 men, no one else can be your opponent. Ho San's heart moved. No one is perfect. He was originally a smart person, but during this period, he couldn't help but feel anxious when he saw people who were originally weaker than him surpassing him one after another. It wasn't until Chen Ronghuo said these words that he finally woke up. Know yourself and have your own advantages. At this time, Chen Ronghuo suddenly said in a deep voice, it's just a matter of raising troops for 1,000 days and using them for a while. Since you have broken through to the 3rd level, then start preparing for war. After finishing speaking, Chen Ronghuo raised his head and glanced in the direction of the 3 major towns. Since you don't come, I will take the initiative to attack you, what can I do? Now every day, there are still villagers from all over the place who come to Greenwater Bay Town for refuge, but the territory of Greenwater Bay Town is no longer enough to accommodate too many people. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 215. Suddenly, a golden meteor fell from the void outside the space inside the ancient book. It hit the space membrane of the ancient book. Chen Ronghuo's consciousness paused, and then he separated a strand and entered the space of the ancient book. The picture flashed. The sea water rolled. In a dark sea area, a giant octopus was fighting fiercely with the devil mermaid that had fought with Chen Ronghuo in the past. The devil mermaid's injuries seemed to have not recovered completely. During the battle, it looked much weaker than when it fought with Chen Ronghuo that day. And the giant octopus, when its claws danced, there was a rolling 2-color mist rising, which surrounded the devil mermaid and became stronger and stronger. Black and white mist. Chen Ronghuo saw the scene through the picture flashing in the ancient book, and his eyes immediately lit up. During this period, because his cultivation reached the 3rd level, the big river crab he kept under the green water outside Greenwater Bay Town had broken through to the late 2nd level. However, the late 2nd level cultivation did not have much effect on Chen Ronghuo. The first time that river crab got the black and white mist evil, it changed from an ordinary Greenwater Bay big river crab to a big river crab with a cultivation of the 2nd level, and its talent was also enhanced a lot. If I give it another black and white mist evil, can its cultivation and talent soar again? Chen Ronghuo's mind flashed with the thought. Buzz. Suddenly, at this moment, in the picture, after the devil mermaid saw that he was no match for the 8-clawed octopus, his 3 eyes glared, and a mysterious handprint was pinched in his hand, which immediately made the entire sea area roar and generate a huge suction force. Then it took advantage of this suction to produce, and when the giant octopus's body became sluggish, it quickly drilled underwater. If I can't beat you, I will teleport you away. This is the strongest trick of the devil mermaid. Buzz. In a moment, the suction from the sea water increased to the limit, forming a deep sea cave, sucking the octopus, which was struggling frantically and didn't know what happened, into the sea cave. Not good. Seeing this scene flashing on the screen, Chen Ronghuo's face changed immediately. The teleportation location of this teleportation array is the palace of the Devil Mermaid King. At this time, the 6 sea monster horses are in the palace of the Devil Mermaid King. When the giant octopus arrives there, it may conflict with those sea monster horses. Chen Ronghuo has always coveted those sea monster horses. If those big guys are killed by the octopus. After withdrawing from the internal space of the ancient book, Chen Ronghuo glanced at the ancient book, but saw that this time, there was no description of this incident in the ancient book. At this time, after hearing Chen Ronghuo ask him to prepare for war, Ho San's eyes immediately lit up. Lord, what are you planning? Chen Ronghuo's consciousness stayed in the inner space of the ancient book for only a moment. After coming back to his senses, he heard Ho San's question and nodded. Our Greenwater Bay town is too small. If the three major towns and the Changsun family don't come to trouble us, then next, we will trouble them first. Hearing Chen Ronghuo's words, Ho San's eyes were burning. He is a natural war-loving faction. In the past, Greenwater Bay town was not strong enough, and he had no choice. But now, as Greenwater Bay town is getting stronger, his soldiers are getting stronger under his training. He can't wait to let the Changsun family and the three major towns see his demon ape army. Seeing Ho San's look, Chen Ronghuo smiled, and cast his eyes on Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui beside him and said, How are you, can you still move? If you can, come with me. Devilfish Lake is now the territory of Xuanhuan town. It can also be said to be the territory of the three major towns. If he goes there, it is very likely to cause a chain reaction. So he needs to bring more people with him. Zhu Daipen's eyes lit up, and he patted his chest and said, Lord, don't worry. With Ho San's strength, I am not afraid to fight him for another 300 rounds. Okay, Chen Ronghuo smiled, in that case, let's go. Then he told Ho San a few more words, and took Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui and quickly left the underground training ground. Swoosh, swoosh. Not long after, in Greenwater Bay town, 5 figures took off together and flew towards Xuanhuan town. They did not hide this move. In Greenwater Bay town, the townspeople were shocked when they saw them. Lord, are we going to destroy the Xuanhuan town? After flying out of Greenwater Bay town, Zhu Daipen finally couldn't help asking the doubts in his heart. This time, in addition to him and Li Haishui, Huang Lin and Zhen Qinzan also followed. There were 5 third-level practitioners acting together, so it was no wonder that he thought so. Chen Ronghuo glanced at him and said, It depends on the situation. If possible, it is not impossible to destroy the Xuanhuan town. Xuanhuan town can be said to be the largest town on Beiwu Island. The territories of the original Zhejiang town, Guangdao town, and Yuanhe town are now all Xuanhuan town. Even the original Tongluo town has a large amount of territory in the hands of Tan Xiong of Xuanhuan town. Boom boom boom. Just as Chen Ronghuo finished speaking, loud sounds of battle suddenly came from the direction of the Crazy Blade stronghold. Hearing the huge sound of fighting, Chen Ronghuo's face changed slightly. He immediately ordered, Let's go, speed up. Yes. Several people agreed immediately. But soon, they looked at each other, and their minds moved slightly. Before, they were still wondering why Chen Ronghuo would make this action in a hurry. It was not until the huge sound of fighting came out that they suddenly realized. They knew that there was probably something they didn't know about that was happening. As for how Chen Ronghuo found out about this, they didn't know. In their eyes, Chen Ronghuo has always been a synonym for mystery. Sometimes, in their eyes, Chen Ronghuo seems to be able to predict the future. Xuanhuan town. After hearing the huge sound coming from the Devilfish Lake, Tan Xiong thought about going to Qingmiu town first to find Long Fiheng and Ma Tianxiao and ask what to do next. But just when he was about to do so, his heart suddenly jumped, and he felt the black and white mist evil source that he had refined, and his body trembled slightly. Black and white mist evil? Is there a cultivator who has also refined the black and white mist evil in the Devilfish Lake? If the owner of the black and white mist evil does not use the black and white mist evil, few people can find it. but once he uses the black and white mist evil, people who also have the black and white mist evil with him, even if they are dozens of miles away, can slightly feel it. At this moment, Tan Xiang felt the black and white mist evil refined by the octopus. Who is the person who refined the black and white mist evil? His face was uncertain. He was originally only in the middle stage of the third level, but because he refined a strand of the black and white mist evil source, he cultivated to the late stage of the third level, and was not far from the peak of the third level. So he knew very well how powerful the black and white mist evil was. If he could get another strand of the black and white mist evil source, maybe he could reach the peak of the third level. Let's go and have a look first. Judging from the movement this time, the strength of the two fighting parties should not be very strong. I will check from a distance and make sure there is no ambush before taking action. If things cannot be violated, I will come back directly. Take a deep breath. Tan Xiang immediately flew into the air and flew straight to the Devilfish Lake. According to the agreement between him, Long Fiheng and Ma Tianxiao, once a special situation occurs, he must immediately go to Qingmu town to discuss with the two. But the appearance of the black and white mist evil this time made him greedy and unwilling to notify the two. The black and white mist evil is too coveted. The reason why he took action against Hu Shen in Zhejiang town was to snatch the black and white mist evil from him. Once Long Fiheng and Ma Tianxiao knew that he had the black and white mist evil, they would definitely have strange thoughts. Thanks to Dong for the 1000 coin reward at landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 216. With the speed of Chen Ronghuo and the other five, they arrived at the territory of the original Crazy Blade stronghold in just a few minutes. Huanglin. After approaching Manta Ray Lake, Chen Ronghuo had a thought, looked at Huanglin and said, "You find a place nearby to hide. If someone comes later, you can act accordingly." Yes. Huanglin agreed upon hearing this, and his figure slowly disappeared into the void, disappearing from the front of several people. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The next moment, Chen Ronghuo took Zhenkinzan, Zhu Deipen, and Li Haishui and quickly flew towards the Devil's Fish Lake. Boom! A huge sound of fighting came from the Devil's Fish Lake, as if a vast expanse of water was thrown into the sky and then crashed down again. After arriving at the shore of Manta Lake, Chen Ronghuo looked around and immediately saw black and white mist emanating from a place in the center of the lake, covering the entire Manta Lake. And in the two-color mist, several huge purple-red tentacles poked out from time to time, like terrifying monsters in the deep sea, exuding strong pressure, as if they were fighting something. Giant Octopus, Middle Stage 3. Special Ability 1, Release Black and White Mist. Innate Ability 2, Huge Strength. Innate Ability 3, Killing Advancement. You can improve your cultivation by killing a large number of powerful beings with original demonic energy. Ability, Water Control Level 3, Intermediate. Talent Potential, Level 4. Note 1, it was originally an 8-clawed octopus in the black fog offshore. Due to refining a wisp of black and white fog evil, its cultivation reached the middle stage of the third level. Note 2, due to an injury not long ago, the octopus was contaminated by a ray of original demonic energy that penetrated from the black demon star. It has confused intelligence, is irritable and murderous, and has developed advanced killing abilities. The original demonic energy infiltrated by the black demon star? What exactly is the original demonic energy? When Chen Ronghuo saw these words appearing on the ancient book, his pupils immediately shrank. He had only seen the words Black Demon Star once before. That time, it was when he killed Xuejun in Black Tiger Town and used ancient books to identify the enchantments of the gods that he identified the words Black Demon Star. He clearly remembered that the barrier of gods that shielded the wordless tomb mountain in Black Tiger Town was formed by the gods absorbing a ray of the original power of the Black Demon Star. Lord, this mist. At this time, Zhu Deipen immediately showed surprise when he saw the black and white fog above the Devil's Fish Lake. He had gone back and forth several times because of the big river crab incident, and he really still had a fresh memory of this fog. Call. Chen Ronghuo did not answer, but flashed his natural disaster wings and flew directly into the black and white fog. At the same time, he waved his hand, and a large area of natural disaster flames immediately rushed forward, forming a sea of fire. Zzz. The sea of fire spread, and the black and white mist at the edge met together, making a sizzling sound. In a short period of time, a large area of black and white fog was burned away by Chen Ronghuo's natural disaster flames. It was like setting fire to the forest. Chen Ronghuo advanced very fast in the two-color mist, and Zhu Daipen, Li Haishui, and Zhen Qinzan were all following him closely. At this time, Li Haishui and Zhen Qinzan, who had never seen the black and white fog evil, had also discovered the power of the black and white fog evil. But when Chen Ronghuo rushed into the black and white fog and got closer and closer to the giant eight-clawed octopus in the middle of the lake, Tan Xiong's figure suddenly appeared behind a hillside a few miles away. He stood on the hillside and looked toward Manta Lake from a distance. When he saw the large black and white mist, the purple-red tentacles of the giant octopus poking out from the lake water from time to time, and Chen Ronghuo and others quickly advancing towards the giant octopus, his expression immediately changed slightly. Chen Ronghuo. Finally, he set his sights on Chen Ronghuo and the natural disaster demon flame that Chen Ronghuo summoned to burn the black and white mist demons, showing an extremely dignified look. He himself has refined the black and white mist fiend, so he naturally knows how powerful the black and white mist fiend is. The flame summoned by Chen Ronghuo can burn the black and white mist. At a glance, you can tell that it must not be underestimated. Call. At this time, as Chen Ronghuo waved his hand again, a large area of natural disaster demonic flames was waved out, and suddenly there was no barrier between the group of them and the giant eight-clawed octopus. Gurgling. 6 siren horses, 1 big and 5 small, emerged from the water and spit out a lot of bubbles. They all showed excitement when they saw Chen Ronghuo suddenly appearing in front of them like a god coming from heaven. This giant eight-clawed octopus is so powerful. Especially the two-color mist it creates. This mist is not only on the lake, but also weirdly seeps into the lake. Only the sea demon horse mother can barely compete. If the other 5 little siren horses weren't rough-skinned and thick flesh, they would have been robbed long ago. At the same time, fortunately, they are connected by blood, and when they are close to each other, they can slightly sense each other, so they are not separated. But even so, if Chen Ronghuo doesn't arrive in time, they may not be able to hold on for long if they continue to wait. Boom boom boom. The giant eight-clawed octopus had a confused mind. Even if it saw Chen Ronghuo breaking through his black and white mist, he didn't have any fear. Its purple-red body floated on the water, and huge tentacles emerged from the lake. With an astonishing whistling sound, like a thick whip, it slammed down on Chen Ronghuo and the others, with a force of 10,000. As soon as the octopus started to move, Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui stood in front of Chen Ronghuo and punched the giant octopus together. The Immortal Demon Sutra that Chen Ronghuo passed on to the two of them came with 2 powerful secret techniques. One secret technique is called the Immortal Demon Body. After practicing it, not only can the power of the Immortal Demon Blood be fully exerted, the recovery ability is stronger, but also the body's defense can be greatly increased. One secret technique is called the Heavenly Demon Disintegration, which can burn one's own spirit and spirit, making every move and every style more powerful. The recovery power brought to Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui by the Immortal Demon Blood is not only the recovery power of the body, but also the recovery power of the soul. Therefore, the two, together with Chen Ronghuo, can now be said to be invincible cockroaches. Boom! As soon as the two of them made a move, they directly performed the Heavenly Demon Disintegration. When they punched out, the fist wind was like the blood sun, shining in all directions. The tentacles that the octopus pulled out at the two were all beaten back by the two. At the same time, Xuanhuan also summoned the four spirits Atlas again, suppressing it, causing the giant octopus to sink in the lake, and most of its body was pressed into the lake. When the lake water splashed, Chen Ronghuo's eyebrows were tightly gathered, and he took a step forward and punched out with a bang. He did not use the natural disaster magic flame to attack the octopus. There were many things on the octopus that he wanted to get. The power of the natural disaster magic flame was too great, and once it was destroyed, it would be more trouble than gain. However, even if he did not use the natural disaster magic flame, his strength was still incredibly strong. He knew everything that Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui knew. When he punched, he also used the heavenly demon disintegration technique. The vast blood and energy condensed into a huge fist, blasting through the air, and the aftermath alone washed out a huge gully in the lake below. Then the fist condensed from blood and energy landed on the body of the giant octopus in the blink of an eye, making a huge roar. The giant octopus was suppressed by Xuanhuan, and its tentacles were all broken by Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui, so it was completely unable to block Chen Ronghuo's punch. At this time, it was hit by Chen Ronghuo's punch and flew backwards hundreds of meters away, and then fell with a bang, smashing countless waves. The lake water was splashed up, and the clouds were steaming, as if a heavy rain was falling in the sky. After the octopus fell into the lake, it wanted to struggle up, but after struggling for a few times, it lay down its tentacles weakly and collapsed in the water. Giant octopus, dead. Chen Ronghuo vibrated the calamity demon wings, flew over the giant octopus in an instant, and waved his hand to collect it. Fighting has always been so simple. The strength of Chen Ronghuo and the other four is no worse than that of an ordinary third-level mid-stage cultivator. If the four of them cannot take down this giant octopus in an instant, it can be said that they have lived in vain. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 217. The important town of Aoki. Long Fiheng and Ma Tianxiao stood on the city wall of Qingmu town. This important town has now been completely conquered by the three major towns. Long Fiheng and Ma Tianxiao looked far away in the direction of the Crazy Sword stronghold. Ma Tianxiao said, "Brother Long, Tan Xiong hasn't come here for so long, do you think something happened to him?" Long Fiheng looked at the direction of Crazy Saber's stronghold from afar, frowning. After a moment, he guessed, the noise came from the Crazy Knife town, which is very close to his Xinwu town. Maybe he is worried that if he leaves the territory, his hometown will be robbed. What about us? Ma Tianxiao looked at Long Fiheng. I want to see what Long Fiheng has planned. Wait a moment, Long Fiheng said with an inexplicable look in his eyes, when the news comes, we will decide what to do. News? What news? Ma Tianxiao looked surprised. I just obtained a few thousand-mile telecommunication notes not long ago. When I just heard the sound of fighting coming from the Guangdao town, I asked my brother to hold the 1,000-mile telephone note and rush there. Long Fiheng said with a smile. Other than that, in addition, I also arranged manpower near Beiwu City. Once there is any change in the Changsun family, call out. Suddenly, just in the middle of Long Fiheng's words, a ray of white light suddenly flew from the north. After landing in front of him, it swirled slightly and turned into a strange illusory white bird. Seeing this white bird, Long Fiheng stretched out his hand and pointed. Suddenly, the white bird spoke human words. Lord, the three sons of the eldest grandson family, after hearing the movement coming from the direction of the strong sword town, they all arrived together. On the city wall of White Mist City, look towards the direction of the stronghold of Crazy Sword. But none of the three of them seemed to have any intention of going to the Crazy Knife town or taking advantage of our Longton town. As soon as he finished his sentence, the white bird immediately disappeared from his body with a pop. Just waiting and watching. Seeing the disillusioned white bird in front of him, Long Fiheng frowned, Could it be that the movement in Kwangdao town this time was not caused by the Changsun family, nor by the Green Water Bay town? Or am I wrong, and Lushwivan town actually has nothing to do with the Changsun family? As Long Fihung frowned, he saw the stronghold of Crazy Saber, Manta Fish Lake. On a hillside a few miles away, Tan Xiong's face suddenly became extremely ugly as he watched the giant 8-clawed octopus being killed by Chen Ronghuo. After the body was taken away by Chen Ronghuo. If Chen Ronghuo and others didn't take action, he wouldn't be able to see their cultivation. But after Chen Ronghuo and others took action, he could see it all at once. He could see that Chen Ronghuo and others were only at the early stage of the third level of cultivation, and they couldn't do anything. Compare yourself to yourself. However, although the cultivation levels of Chen Ronghuo and others were not high, their ability to take down the 8-clawed octopus with one strike made him look solemn. The giant 8-clawed octopus has a high level of cultivation in the middle of the third level, and has refined the black and white mist demons. Even if he takes action, he may not be able to take it down with one blow. It seems that this time, I have to go back first, and then think of ways to plot the black and white fog evil. Tan Xiong thought of quitting. Although he wants to get the black and white fog fiend, it doesn't mean that he has lost his mind and wants to die. Brush. But just when Tan Xiong wanted to retreat and wanted to leave here first, a figure suddenly walked out of the void behind him. Holding a dagger, he cut Tan Xiong's throat. This figure is none other than Huang Lin, who was left behind by Chen Ronghuo. In the past few months, although Huang Lin's cultivation had not broken through, he had mastered several powerful martial arts and secret techniques. Among these martial arts secrets, there is one that uses a dagger to assassinate. Although Tan Xiong was stronger than Huang Lin, because his attention was focused on Chen Ronghuo and others, when he discovered Huang Lin and tried to dodge, it was too late. He could only quickly stimulate his energy and blood to resist Huang Lin's attack, while trying his best to dodge. Puff! The dagger carried this rich power of shadow, and a dark light appeared. With a pop, it cut through Tan Xiong's energy and blood defense, and then made a slight cut on his neck. As the blood spurted out, the dark color quickly spread from Tan Xiong's wound to his whole body. Poison! There was a look of horror in Tan Xiong's eyes, and he quickly retreated while circulating his energy and blood to force out the poison. But Huang Lin didn't know what secret technique he used. His speed was so fast that he followed Tan Xiong closely like a shadow, preventing him from escaping. Far away. After Chen Ronghuo put away the body of the giant 8-clawed octopus, before he could invite a few siren horses to his territory, he heard noises a few miles away. He turned around and immediately saw Tan Xiong, who was entangled by Huang Lin. Tan Xiong, late third-level practitioner. Identity, Lord of Xinwu City, Viscount. Martial Arts Qualification, 4. Special Ability, Release Black and White Mist. Kung Fu, Secret Code of Divine Martial Arts. Ability, 3 Divine Martial Arts. Black and White Fog. When Chen Ronghuo identified Tan Xiong's attributes, his eyes immediately lit up. Today can be said to be his lucky day. Not only did he kill the giant 8-clawed octopus and rescued 6 siren horses, he also met Tan Xiong, who came to die after killing the giant 8-clawed octopus. The most important thing is that Tan Xiong is also the owner of the black and white fog fiend. If he can take down Tan Xiong, then this time, Dahi Crab may rise. It is not impossible to even surpass Fat Cat in one fell swoop and become his #1 combat force. Boom! One thought after another flashed through his mind, and Chen Ronghuo immediately vibrated the calamity wings and flew straight to Tan Xiong, who was a few miles away. Zhen Qinzan, Zhu Daipen, and Li Haishui also followed him. Oh no! At the same time, in another place outside the tree, a figure wearing a purple robe with eyebrows and eyes hurried over. After seeing this scene, his face immediately changed. This figure was Long Fifeng, who was sent by Long Fiheng. But he saw that Tan Xiang was in danger and wanted to rescue him, but he was powerless. Even Tan Xiang, who had the third stage late stage cultivation, was about to fall into the hands of Chen Ronghuo and his group. Even if he had eaten a bear heart and a leopard courage, he did not dare to step forward. With a thought, he quickly took out a talisman from the storage equipment, activated it, said a few secret words, and threw it out. After being thrown out by him, the talisman immediately turned into a white light and quickly went away. Whoosh! Here they come. In a moment, in the important town of King Mu, Long Fiheng saw the white light that suddenly flew from the south like a flash of lightning, and his eyes immediately lit up. The next moment, he pointed at the white light, turning it into an illusory white bird again. "Brother, it's Chen Ronghuo from Lushwiven town, and his 4 men. He and his men are all third-level practitioners. In addition, Tan Xiang also came here, but he, probably can't go back." The white bird dispersed, and the words ended. Long Fiheng and Ma Tianxiao, who heard Long Fifeng's voice transmission, both changed their faces. Ma Tianxiao said anxiously, "Brother Long, since the Changsun family has not made any move, should we go to rescue Tan Xiang?" "Save Tan Xiang," Long Fiheng looked grim. "We have agreed long ago that if there is any disturbance, we must gather in King Mu town. If the situation is serious, he can also stay in his own town." But for some reason, he acted alone for his own selfishness. Does he still expect us to save him? After the words fell, Long Fiheng's heart moved, and he turned his eyes and looked towards Lushwiven town. "The Changsun family has not taken any action and has no intention of coming to us." Chen Ronghuo took his men to Kwangdao town. One thought after another emerged from his mind, making his eyes brighter and brighter. "Let's go. Let's go to Lushwiven town. Go to Lushwiven town." Ma Tianxiao was slightly startled. Long Fiheng's eyes showed a ferocious look. "Go straight to Huanglong, destroy Chen Ronghuo's lord statue as quickly as possible, and destroy Green Water Bay town. We haven't taken action for such a long time. Chen Ronghuo probably thought we were afraid of him, so he didn't dare to touch him. That's why he dared to go to the important town of Kwangdao to make trouble. In this case, let's give him a taste of his power this time. When he returns to the town, he can only see a ruin." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 218. While Chen Ronghuo and his men are away, take over Lushwiven town. Hearing what Long Fiheng said, Ma Tianxiao's eyes immediately lit up. Lushwiven town is located to the west of Beiwu Island and to the west of their 3 major towns. And it happens to be at an angle with Beiwu City in the northeast, squeezing their 3 major towns in the middle. This is an extremely awkward position. It was like a nail, stuck there. Let them be afraid no matter what they do. If they can capture Green Water Bay town, it will be of huge benefit to their 3 major towns. Okay, then I will go with Brother Long on this trip, but Brother Long must let your men keep an eye on the Changsun family. Once the Changsun family takes action, we must come back immediately. After Ma Tianxiao pondered for a moment, he spoke. This time, it's an opportunity. By capturing Green Water Bay town, they will no longer have to worry about anything in the future. Brother Ma, don't worry, Long Fiheng said with stern eyes. Chen Ronghuo and others are in the crazy Saber town. There are no strong men in Green Water Bay town now. If we go there, we can quickly destroy Chen Ronghuo's lord statue and return to the town. As for the Changsun family, my people will definitely keep a close eye on it. That's good. Ma Tianxiao nodded, and immediately the 2 of them flew straight to Green Water Bay town without hesitation. As for Tan Xiang, neither of them mentioned it again. Meanwhile, Manta Lake. Under Huang Lin's entanglement, Tan Xiang, who was poisoned, tried to escape several times, but was stopped by Huang Lin. The poison in him was extremely powerful. As a result, he had to use up a large portion of his energy and blood to suppress the poison. As a result, not only did he fail to escape, but he fell into danger several times in Huang Lin's hands. At the same time, he shouted for help several times, stating that he was being besieged by Chen Ronghuo's men, but after receiving no response, he already knew that he had been abandoned by Long Fiheng and Ma Tianxiao. Call. Just when Tan Xiang was getting more and more irritable, Chen Ronghuo led Zhen Qinzan, Zhu Deipen, and Li Haishui, and suddenly jumped across the sky and flew for several miles, surrounding him. Chen Ronghuo. Tan Xiang's eyes were red and he stared at Chen Ronghuo. At this time, he still had reason. As a warrior's cultivation increases, the power of his soul will become stronger and stronger. Tan Xiang stared at Chen Ronghao, vibrating the air with the power of his soul, and said quickly, "I don't know if you have anything to do with the Changsun family, but let me tell you, Bai Kirishima's situation is a foregone conclusion. I'm afraid you don't know that I, Ma Tianxiao, and even Long Fiheng are just other people's flags. That person is not on Beiwu Island now, but once that person comes back, Beiwu Island will be unified immediately. Once that person learns that you killed me, he will definitely not let you go. But if you know the current situation, let me go this time, and take the initiative to seek refuge, I can introduce you to that person. You must also know what kind of cultivation is the person who can regard me, Ma Tianxiao, and Long Fiheng as his flag." Puff. Because Tan Xiang was distracted, his left arm was hit by Huang Lin again. "What kind of cultivation level? 4th level." Chen Ronghuo sneered. With a sneer, he punched out. Regardless of whether what Tan Xiang said was true or false, he had no reason to be afraid. In other words, there is no turning back when the bow is fired. At this moment, he was about to capture Tan Xiang. How could he give up just because of his words? At the same time, when Chen Ronghuo took action, Zhen Qinzan also flipped his palm and suppressed the Siling Tulu. "You are seeking death." Seeing Chen Ronghuo want to kill him. At the same time, after calculating the distance between Chen Ronghuo and himself, Tan Xiang suddenly took a deep breath, his chest swelled high, like a blower, and he roared angrily. Boom! Along with this roar, Tan Xiang's body suddenly burst out with energy and blood like a huge wave. Qi and blood are released, soaring into the sky. Then they fell upside down, and like water that destroyed the world, they rushed towards Chen Ronghuo and the 5 of them crazily. Even the poison in Tan Xiang's body surged out of his body with this move. The 3 forms of Xinwu destroy the world. This move is the strongest move among the 3 martial arts skills practiced by Tan Xiang. This move is not only powerful, but it can also remove many negative conditions from oneself when used. It's just that this is the first time Tan Xiang has used this move since he mastered it. Because once this martial skill is used, it will be at the expense of one's own strength being reduced by a small level. In other words, after this move is used, Tan Xiang's cultivation level will immediately drop from the late 3rd level to the mid-3rd level. Boom! Boom! When Tan Xiang broke out, Zhu Deipen and Li Haishui immediately stood in front of Chen Ronghuo, and used the magic of demon disintegration to punch Tan Xiang with their maximum strength. Soon, Chen Ronghuo's punch, together with the punches of Zhu Deipen and Li Haishui, collided with Tan Xiang's Xinwu strike, causing a loud rumble. In just a blink of an eye, the 3 people's attacks were all overwhelmed by Tan Xiang's move. Although Chen Ronghuo and the other 3 were able to fight across levels and fight against mid-level 3rd level cultivators, they were still much weaker when faced with Tan Xiang, whose cultivation was 2 levels higher than them and who also used his strongest skills. Click. At the same time, Zhenqianzan also controlled the Four Spirits Atlas to suppress Tan Xiong's move. Just a moment later, his suppression was also destroyed by Tan Xiong's domineering attack. At this time, Huang Lin's figure flashed, and he appeared in front of Chen Ronghuo without knowing when. He raised his hand and made a strange gesture, as if he wanted to use some secret technique to resist this attack. At this time, Tan Xiong's attack had been weakened a lot because of several people's resistance. However, before Huang Lin made a move, when Zhenqianzan used the Four Spirits Atlas to suppress Tan Xiong's move, causing Tan Xiong's move to stagnate slightly, Zhu Deipen and Li Haishui looked at each other, and actually directly stimulated their blood and qi, like a machine gun, punching one after another. And when punching, the two moved their bodies and rushed directly into Tan Xiong's attack frenzy like the tide of world destruction. Open! A moment later, accompanied by a loud shout, Zhu Deipen and Li Haishui actually walked out from the other side of the wave of world destruction. The terrifying wave of destruction was actually pierced by the two of them. However, the two of them were also covered in blood at this time. At first glance, they looked like bloody people. Even familiar people would not recognize who they were in front of them. The Lord of the Xuanhuan town, is this all he can do? After piercing through Tan Xiong's attack and walking out, Zhu Deipen laughed grimly and stepped out with a bang. In the eyes of Tan Xiong, who couldn't believe it, he stepped on him. At this moment, Zhu Deipen felt that he was particularly brave. He, Zhu Deipen, finally showed his power once. Bang! But at this moment, Chen Ronghuo suddenly stepped forward and hit Zhu Deipen's head hard. Zhu Deipen turned his head and looked at Chen Ronghuo with a confused look. He didn't know why Chen Ronghuo hit him. Seeing Zhu Deipen's look, Chen Ronghuo cursed him, "Is it fun to step on people? Don't you know it's dangerous?" Ah! Zhu Deipen was startled, and then he realized where he was wrong. But he looked down at his feet and saw Tan Xiong staring at him, but he didn't know what to do. Ah, what? Chen Ronghuo said unhappily, "Why don't you kill him quickly?" Ah, yes. Bang! He kicked up. Shang was still shocked that Zhu Deipen and Li Haishui had just pierced through his strongest attack with their bodies. At the same time, he thought that Chen Ronghuo might interrogate him, or find a way to subdue his Tan Xiong. After feeling a sharp pain in his head and a dizzy spell, he knew nothing. Another lord of an important town died in the hands of Chen Ronghuo. And he was one of the three most powerful lords of Beiwu Island. Chen Ronghuo glanced at Tan Xiong, whose brain had exploded, and with a wave of his hand, he put him away. Then he turned halfway and looked in the direction of the important town of Xuanhuan. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 219. Brother, is there really something wrong with the three major towns? In Beiwu City, when Tan Xiong called for help several times and shouted that he was being surrounded and killed by Chen Ronghuo and his men, Chang Sun Sheng finally couldn't sit still. Chang Sun Ping's eyebrows were beating. After a moment, he said, "Don't worry about them. Even if Lushuivan town has nothing to do with the three major towns, even if Tan Xiong is really being surrounded and killed by Chen Ronghuo and his men, it has nothing to do with us. He is a late-stage third-level cultivator. Sitting in Beiwu City, with the help of the Lord's statue, he can exert the strength comparable to a half-step fourth-level cultivator. With the strength of a half-step fourth-level cultivator, it is absolutely no problem to defend his own piece of land on the current Beiwu Island. But if he leaves Beiwu City, with his strength, it is not impossible for him to be ambushed." Chang Sunan on the side also said, "Brother is right, we just have to wait and see. If Tan Xiong is really being surrounded and killed by Chen Ronghuo and his men, Long Fi Hung and Ma Tianxiao will not help. Do we have to help? And if this is a trap," they said, "we will definitely not get any good results if we go." This time, several people were worried about being deceived and still did not take action. After all, the Quangdao town is too far away from them. Just as the three brothers Chang Sunping were discussing this matter, Long Fifeng took a deep breath after seeing Chen Ronghuo kill Tan Xiong by the Devilfish Lake in the Quangdao town. He did not dare to stay for long and quickly rushed back to the Longtan town. I don't know what the eldest brother is going to do. He really didn't dare to stay here for long. Being too close to Chen Ronghuo, he always felt terrified. After Chen Ronghuo collected Tan Xiong's body, he immediately took off into the air and flew straight to the Xinwu town with Huang Lin and others. After killing someone, they naturally have to search their house. He is used to the so-called one-stop service of killing and searching their house. The town of Quangdao is adjacent to the town of Xinwu. It is only about 70 to 80 miles from the Devilfish Lake to the Lord's mansion of the town of Xinwu. Not long after, a group of 5 people crossed the sky, with a whistling sound, like 5 human-shaped Scud missiles, and descended over the Lord's mansion of the town of Xinwu. However, because of the time wasted by Chen Ronghuo and his men in killing Tan Xiong, when the 5 of them arrived at the town of Xinwu, Long Fiheng and Ma Tianxiao also arrived at the town of Lushwiven. Before the 2 arrived, the strong wind sounded far away in the town of Lushwiven. Stop! On the city wall, the guards heard the noise and found the 2 people at the first time. But when they shouted loudly, they found that the 2 people not only did not stop, but also increased their speed slightly, and their faces changed slightly. Long Fiheng and Ma Tianxiao, like 2 meteors, rushed straight to Green Water Bay Town. At this time, in the large green water outside Green Water Bay Town, there were fishermen rowing boats to scoop fish feed into the water. This entire green water has now become a fish pond. Long Fiheng ignored these people. But when Ma Tianxiao flew over, he glanced at the fishermen below, and suddenly reached out and slapped them. The bloody palm print fell from the sky, gathering the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, getting bigger and bigger, and finally like a huge cattail leaf fan, with the sound of rolling wind and thunder, it slapped down. Before the palm fell, the large green water below was pressed down by the strong wind, forming a palm-shaped depression. In the depression, fishing boats were all overturned in it. Then the huge palm suddenly accelerated and fell fiercely, as if to slap all the fishermen who fell into the water to death. Bang! But at this moment, a red fish tail suddenly emerged from the green water. The fish tail flipped upward, and the tide fish scales shone brightly, as if carrying infinite power. This huge power spread out and connected with a large area of green water, causing the green water to roll back, like a raging sea wave, rising into the sky, as if it was going to overturn the world. Boom! With a loud bang, Ma Tianxiao's casual attack was swallowed up by the huge wave. The fish tail that emerged from the green water quickly disappeared again, and no trace was left, making people wonder what had just been attacked. Is it the carp in Green Water Town? Ma Tianxiao frowned. Through intelligence, he knew that there was a 3rd-level red carp king in Green Water Bay Town. Don't worry about it, Long Fiheng said coldly, let's destroy Chen Ronghuo's lord statue first, and then destroy the city. This fish is quite powerful in the water, but it definitely doesn't dare to leave this area of water. Ma Tianxiao nodded, and immediately rushed to Green Water Bay Town with Long Fiheng. After the 2 entered Green Water Bay Town, the red carp controlled a large area of water waves in the green water, forming huge waves, flying high, with amazing power. I am the master of the lake, I am the king of the ocean, I am the sky. The red carp looked at Long Fiheng and Ma Tianxiao, who ignored it, and shouted loudly. The guards on the city wall were secretly excited when they saw the red carp king showing off his power, hoping that the red carp king could stop Long Fiheng and Ma Tianxiao. However, when the red carp heard him shouting, Ma Tianxiao seemed to look back at it, and its face changed slightly. Halfway through his words, he turned and said, if you have the courage, wait for my master to come back. Hearing his words, all the guards were stunned. However, Long Fiheng and Ma Tianxiao both sneered and went straight to the top of Chen Ronghuo's lord's mansion. From entering the city to arriving at Chen Ronghuo's lord's mansion, it was just a matter of a moment for the two. Looking down from a high place, the two saw Chen Ronghuo's lord's statue at a glance. But what surprised the two was that there was no guard in front of Chen Ronghuo's lord's statue. Only a dozen meters away from the lord's statue, there was an old man holding a broom, sweeping the square. The old man was dressed simply, and even though the two made such a big noise, he seemed not to see it. At the same time, the two released their soul power and looked at the old man, but they didn't see anything special about the old man. Long Fiheng, Ma Tianxiao. However, just when the two were about to attack Chen Ronghuo's lord's statue, a loud shout suddenly sounded in the distance, and when this loud shout sounded, a tall figure quickly ran over. This figure was Ho San, who stayed in Lushwiven town. Another third-level cultivator. Seeing the person coming, both of them were surprised. They didn't expect that in addition to the Red Carp King, there was actually a third-level cultivator in Lushui town. Just as the two were thinking this, another figure flew up from the Lord's mansion of Lushwiven town, accompanying Ho San and gathering with Ho San. Wenjing Gluo. As soon as this figure appeared, Long Fiheng and Ma Tianxiao recognized him. I didn't expect that you would defect to Lushwiven town. Wenjing Gluo didn't say anything, but just called out his pen, stood with Ho San, and stared at the two coldly. Meow. At the same time, above Chen Ronghuo's lord's mansion, a fat cat lying on the tiles also stood up with its body shaking. This cat is naturally the fat cat itself. This is one of the rare times when Chen Ronghuo went out without the fat cat. Is it Chen Ronghuo's cat that swallowed the earthworm in one bite? Long Fiheng glanced at the fat cat with a serious look. Counting Ho San, Wenjing Gluo, the fat cat, and the covetous Red Carp King outside the city, there are already 4 third-level practitioners. When Chen Ronghuo led his men out, there were still 4 third-level practitioners in Lushwiven town, which he had never expected. Brother Long. At this time, Ma Tianxiao looked at Ho San and others, and his eyes flashed. You hold them back first, I will smash Chen Ronghuo's lord's statue, and then kill them with you. If it was just the Red Carp King, Ho San, and Wenjing Gluo, with his strength, he would not be afraid. But with the unknown fat cat, he was a little worried. So he thought of letting Long Fiheng test the strength of Ho San and others first, and then see the situation himself. Okay. Long Fiheng did not refuse. Although there were still so many strong people in Lushwiven town, which surprised him, but with his strength, as long as there were no 4th-level practitioners in Lushwiven town, he would not be afraid. Thanks to the burning of the sense of time for 100 coins reward. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 220. From the sky, the entire Gatuo snake archipelago looks like a giant coiled snake dotted with islands. This coiled snake has its tail outside and its head in the middle. At the same time, the closer you get to the center, the bigger the island is. The 2 islands of Shirayuki Island and Kuraki Island are located at the tail of the big snake. On this day, when the big show on Shirayuki Island was brilliant, as a strange breeze blew, all the islands in the entire Gatuo snake archipelago seemed to move slightly. Indistinctly, these islands seemed to be moving together. In comparison, other islands were better. However, Shirayuki Island, Kuraki Island, and several neighboring islands at the tail of the snake were clearly seen to have begun to move in the sea. Especially Shirayuki Island and Kuraki Island, which were originally close to each other, moved the fastest. Judging from the current speed, it is estimated that it will not take long for the 2 islands to collide with each other. Although the 2 islands were moving, the life on the island seemed to have no inertia and had no idea of it. At the same time, the main island of the Gatuo Snake Islands, the Snake God Island. In a hidden temple. A figure covered in a black robe looked at the human-headed snake statue in front of him with a pious look. After a moment, he turned around and said in a cold voice, "The formation left by my god before leaving has been activated. Within 10 years, the archipelago will be united. Leyland, you notify everyone and let our lords prepare for war." Yes. In front of the black-robed man, there were more than a dozen figures in grey robes. After the black-robed man finished speaking, one of them immediately responded. White Mist Island. The people on the island knew nothing about the huge changes in White Mist Island. Including Chen Ronghuo, the same was true. Lord. Above the Xuanhuan town. Xuanhuan and the other four changed their faces after hearing Ho San's shout from Greenwater Bay Town. For such a long time, Longtan Town and other major towns had no intention of attacking Lushwiven Town, which made them a little relaxed. None of them expected that not long after they came out, Long Fihung and Ma Tianxiao ran back to their homes. But it was obviously too late for them to return to support now. Don't worry. Chen Ronghuo shook his head. After he broke through to the third level, the induction between him and his demon pets had become clearer. Although he was more than 100 miles away from Lushwiven Town at this time, even through the special induction between him and Fat Cat, he could not sense the current situation of Lushwiven. But he could sense Fat Cat's mood. And Fat Cat's mood at this time was gloating. In the entire Lushwiven Town, except for him, only Fat Cat knew how strong Changsun Zhengzin was. Although other people knew that Changsun Zhengzin was extraordinary for various reasons, none of them knew how strong Changsun Zhengzin was. Through the gloating mood conveyed by the Fat Cat at this time, Chen Ronghuo could roughly guess why it was gloating without much thought. Greenwater Bay Town. After Long Fihung agreed, Ma Tianxiao was extremely decisive. He moved his body and rose to the sky. When he quickly flew hundreds of meters above the Lord's mansion, he grabbed with both hands and grabbed a black iron spear. He used both hands to hold the iron spear tightly and injected his own strong blood into it. Crack! With the iron spear in hand, he shouted loudly, piercing gold and splitting stones. The next moment, he stared at Chen Ronghuo's Lord statue, moved his blood, and with a bang, he tore the air and pounced straight down, like a fierce general in the sky. At the same time, when he stabbed down with the spear in his hand, an illusory blood-colored divine horse suddenly appeared on his spear. This divine horse has wings on its ribs and looks extremely extraordinary. Down below, Long Fihung saw the scene and nodded slightly. Although Ma Tianxiao was a bit sneaky, as the lord of a town, his strength was still good, especially this move of the Pegasus Meteor Spear, which was so powerful that even if he wanted to take it head-on, he would have to spend some effort. Ho San and others who also saw the scene wanted to intercept, but just when they were about to move, they all raised their heads slightly and looked at the Fat Cat on the tiled house of the Lord's mansion. At this moment, the Fat Cat was moving his mouth slightly, emitting the power of the soul, saying something to the few people. Long Fihung saw the movements of the few people and frowned slightly, wondering what they were doing. Did they know that they were no match for him and didn't plan to intercept? However, this thought was born and was extinguished by him in an instant. From his perspective, no matter what others said, Ho San was obviously not the kind of person who was afraid of fighting. But no matter how he thought about it, he couldn't figure out what the few people were going to do. Is there a trap? His brows were furrowed, and for a moment, he was afraid to act rashly. Above, Ma Tianxiao, holding a spear in his hand, came from the sky with a terrifying wind pressure. Before his spear arrived, the terrifying wind pressure blew away all the dust on the square of the Lord's mansion. If this hurricane is calculated by level, it is probably more than 20 levels. If this square had not been integrated with a lot of solid attributes by Chen Ronghuo, I am afraid that this gust of wind alone would be able to overturn the ground of the square. However, in this terrifying hurricane, Changsun Zhengzin, who was cleaning the square, slowly raised his head. The speed at which he raised his head seemed very slow. But when he raised his head, Ma Tianxiao's Pegasus meteor gun was still in the air and had not fallen. At the same time, no matter how fierce the wind was under the air attack, the clothes Changsun Zhengzin was wearing were also in the wind without any sound. It was as if he was not affected at all. Wind, dust. Changsun Zhengzin just glanced at Ma Tianxiao, and then moved his eyes away from him, and then looked at the dust around him that was blown away by the terrifying wind pressure brought by Ma Tianxiao. In his eyes, every dust particle was clearly visible. Looking at the dust and the trajectory of the wind that rolled up the dust, his face showed a hint of thoughtfulness. Originally, he was a 4th-level peak cultivator. Because of the love flower curse, his cultivation dropped to the 3rd-level peak. It was only after integrating into the dustless state of mind that he returned to the 4th level not long ago. However, when he returned to the 4th level, he was only in the early 4th level. But at this moment, because of the super understanding given to him by the dustless mind, after he saw the dust particles being swept away by the strong wind, his mind moved, as if he had fallen into a state of enlightenment, and the true qi in his body suddenly started to circulate at high speed like the wind. The 4th level of the warrior realm is the Jinhui realm. The breath in the body of a warrior in the Jinhui realm is no longer called blood, but is called true qi. The true qi in Changsun Zhengzin's body is running at high speed, just like the strong wind is treating the impurities in the true qi as dust and is quickly cleaning it. In just a moment, the true qi in his body has become much purer. The cultivation of the Jinhui realm is to purify the true qi. At this moment, judging from the purity of the true qi in Changsun Zhengzin's body, he has broken through from the early stage of the 4th stage to the middle stage of the 4th stage. After the breakthrough in cultivation, Changsun Zhengzin turned his head and set his eyes on Ma Tianxiao again. You. Ma Tianxiao's eyes met with Changsun Zhengzin's, and his mind was trembling. At this point, let alone anything else, just the fact that Changsun Zhengzin could remain motionless in the terrifying wind pressure he created, he had already seen that Changsun Zhengzin was definitely not what he had imagined at the beginning, just an ordinary old man. And by looking at Changsun Zhengzin, he felt the indifference in Changsun Zhengzin's eyes, the indifference as if he was looking at a speck of dust. In his heart, for no reason, he had a feeling that he was being watched by a ruthless and terrifying abyss. And just as Ma Tianxiao was thinking this, Changsun Zhengzin, who was standing quietly in the square, slowly raised the broom in his hand. The speed at which he raised the broom seemed to be as slow as when he raised his head before. But in the slowness, the broom brought a breeze and lightly fell on Ma Tianxiao, who fell from the sky. Huh! A gust of wind blew, and the illusory blood-colored Pegasus that appeared on the spear in Ma Tianxiao's hand disappeared silently. At the same time, his body flew backwards like dust blown by the wind. During the flight, Ma Tianxiao's eyes showed a look of shock. But such a look of shock was replaced by a touch of gray in an instant. Boom! Immediately, when Ma Tianxiao's body flew backwards out of Greenwater Bay Town at a faster speed than when he came, with a bang, it disintegrated and exploded in mid-air, turning into countless gray dust, which was blown away by the strong wind. Another lord of an important town. Death. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 221. Long Fiheng witnessed the whole process of Ma Tianxiao being swept to death by Changsun Zhengzin with a broom. When this scene happened, there was no earth-shattering movement. However, as a peak third-level cultivator, Long Fiheng, who had countless trump cards and believed that no one could do anything to him unless he became a fourth-level cultivator, was trembling in his heart. Fourth level. He uttered two words in a hoarse voice, almost like a murmur. This horse is a fourth-level cultivator. Boom. When these two words were uttered, his body moved, burst out with all his strength, and with a bang, he broke through the air under his feet and flew straight out of Xuanhuan town. Escape. At this moment, he threw all the ideas of the strong man's dignity, breaking Chen Ronghuo's lord statue, destroying Xuanhuan town, and leaving Chen Ronghuo with only ruins when he returned, etc., behind his head. Escape. Escape far away. He didn't know how a fourth-level cultivator could be stationed in Greenwater Bay Town. He didn't know why a town with a fourth-level cultivator in charge wanted to unify Beiwu Island, so why did it have to hide and go through so much trouble? At this moment, for him, except for his life, everything else was trivial. Next to the statue of the Lord of Chen Ronghuo, Chang Sun Zhengzin glanced at Long Fiheng, who was quickly moving away, and a green light flashed in his eyes. He swept the broom that had just fallen upwards again. There was no killing intent in his eyes. It seemed that he took action only because Long Fiheng disturbed him from cleaning the square. At the same time, his sweep was still light and casual. It was still slow but fast. But when this sweep was sent out, there was a green light, like a wind shadow, which quickly caught up with Long Fiheng. Long Fiheng showed a trace of horror on his face. In a hurry, he could only stir up his blood and make it flow in his body like a river. After the blood and qi in his body flowed to the limit, he called out a blood-red dragon shadow from his body with a bang, and took over the green light that Chang Sun Zhengzin had swept out. However, the blood-red dragon shadow that Long Fiheng transformed into with his full strength was destroyed in just a moment after being swept by the green light. Then, without consuming much green light, it chased Long Fiheng again and arrived in the blink of an eye. Long Fiheng's face showed a ferocious look. Then he flipped his palm, took out a jade pendant, and threw it back. Then he took out another cocky talisman, slapped it on his body, and turned it into an illusory cocky armor that adhered to his body. At the same time, he also took out a huge golden shield and blocked it behind his back with his hands behind his back. Puff puff puff. The jade pendant turned into bursts of green light, but before it could show its power, it was swept away by the remaining green wind shadow. Then came the huge shield. After the shield was swept by the wind shadow, it disintegrated and exploded with a bang, just like Ma Tianxiao before, turning into countless grey dust and falling in the air. Then came the illusory cocky armor. The armor resisted for a little longer, but in the end, it was also shattered and turned into nothingness. Following the remaining wind shadow, it finally swept onto Long Fiheng's back. After Long Fiheng stimulated his blood and resisted a little, he spit out a mouthful of blood. Then he couldn't suppress his injuries, so he used the terrifying force transmitted to him by the wind shadow and flew out of Greenwater Bay Town with gritted teeth. Next to the statue of the Lord of Chen Ronghuo, Chang Sun Zhengzin lowered his head after sweeping it and swept the square again. Long Fiheng could take his blow, or he couldn't take his blow. In his eyes, it seemed that there was no difference. When Mo Licking rested in the love flower in his soul sea, his eyes were only filled with dust on the square. Just now, Ma Tianxiao swept away all the dust on the square with one blow. But dust is endless. It disappeared just in the last moment, and a lot of it flew in the next moment. Every grain of dust was clearly visible in Chang Sun Zhengzin's eyes. He was just like an ordinary old man, holding a broom and sweeping the square one by one. Seeing this scene, Ho San and others were all shocked. When Chen Ronghuo asked them not to provoke Chang Sun Zhengzin before, they knew that Chang Sun Zhengzin must be extraordinary. But none of them knew that Chang Sun Zhengzin's strength was so great. At the same time, they finally knew why Fat Cat didn't let them do it just now. Fourth level. This ordinary-looking old man actually has the fourth level of cultivation. Outside Greenwater Bay Town, in the green water. When the Red Carp King saw that Ma Tianxiao, who had shown his might before, was killed by Chang Sun Zhengzin with a broom, and the remaining Long Fiheng was also seriously injured, a gleam of light suddenly flashed in its big eyes. Stop, do you think that our Green Water Bay town is a place where you can come and go as you please? Suddenly, it shouted loudly, controlling a large area of green water, splashing up, forming a water dragon, and killing Long Fihung who wanted to escape. Long Fihung's eyes were red. If he was not afraid of Changsun Zhengzin, even if he was seriously injured, he could also use a killing move to kill the Red Carp King in one move. But thinking of Changsun Zhengzin's horror, he saw the Red Carp King attacking, but he had to turn in another direction and flew to the north. Coward! Don't let me see it next time. The Red Carp King pretended to chase twice, and stopped at the border of green water with a show of force, as if he had done a great deed. However, with Long Fihung's speed, it would be impossible for it to catch up even if Long Fihung was injured. Ho San and others were the same. Long Fihung. At the same time, in Lushwiven town, Ho San saw Long Fihung escape with serious injuries. His eyes moved, and he suddenly shouted loudly, Tan Xiong and Ma Tianxiao are both dead, and you are also seriously injured. What if you can escape? Or do you think that with your current serious injury, you can still save Longton town? I will give you a chance. As long as you surrender to my Lushwiven town, I can ask my lord to forgive your offense this time. In the distance, Long Fihung's face was grim when he heard Ho San's words, and he sped up again. Ho San was not disappointed when he saw this scene. He had guessed that Long Fihung would not surrender to them easily. So his loud shout was not actually said to Long Fihung. It was to convey the message to Chen Ronghuo who was far away in the Xinwu town. The louder the sound, the faster it spreads in the world of gods. It didn't take long for Ho San's shout to reach the ears of Chen Ronghuo and others. When Zhu Deipen heard Ho San's shout, he immediately showed an incredible look on his face. Ma Tianxiao died, Long Fihung was seriously injured. Lord, what Ho San said can't be true. How can they be the opponents of Long Fihung and Ma Tianxiao with just a few of them? But after he finished speaking, he was hot in his heart. I hope Ho San must not make a mistake. If it is really as Ho San said, then this time, in addition to the Xinwu town, they definitely have the possibility to take down the Black Horse town and even the Longton town. These three towns now occupy more than half of the territory of Beiwu Island. If they take them all. Zhu Deipen's eyes showed an extremely hot look, just like a big pie, which made him want to swallow it in one bite. At this time, Chen Ronghuo said slowly, Ho San's words cannot be false. After a word, he lowered his head and swept his eyes over the people in the Xinwu town who were panicked because of the arrival of the five of them. Suddenly, he had an idea and took out Tan Xiong's body from the storage ring and threw it down with a plop. Tan Xiong is dead, those who surrender will not be killed. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 222. In addition to Tan Xiong, there is also a third-level cultivator in the Xinwu important town. But that cultivator was not in the important town of Xinwu. After Chen Ronghuo threw Tan Xiong's body down, the expressions of everyone in Xinwu city changed drastically. They had heard Tan Xiong's cry for help before. Later, Chen Ronghuo and others arrived, and they all guessed something. But I still can't believe it. Tan Xiong led them and captured several important towns along the way. In the eyes of people in Xinwu city, Tan Xiong can be said to be an extremely tyrannical figure. How is it possible that Tan Xiong died like this? But now, Tan Xiong's cold body was thrown away by Chen Ronghuo in public. After throwing down Tan Xiong's body, Chen Ronghuo felt something in his heart, turned around and said, Huanglin, Zhenqian San, you two go to the Black Horse Town first. Stop the people in Dark Horse Town from destroying Ma Tianxiao's Lord statue. Yes. Huanglin and Zhenqian agreed, said goodbye to Chen Ronghuo, and quickly flew towards the Dark Horse Town. Seeing the two people leaving, Chen Ronghuo's eyes flashed. In addition to Ma Tianxiao, there are 3 third-level cultivators in the Dark Horse Town. Huanglin and Zhenkinzan are here, but they don't know if it's too late. As for the important town of Longtan, Chen Ronghuo plans to wait until he has captured both the important town of Xinwu and the important town of Dark Horse, and then gather everyone's strength to go to the important town of Longtan to see if they can win it. Long Fiheng is a third-level peak cultivator. Once he returns to the important town of Longtan, with the help of the power of the Lord's statue, his cultivation level will be enough to show strength comparable to that of an average fourth-level cultivator. In that case, let alone taking over the important town of Longtan, Chen Ronghuo would have a hard time protecting himself even without using the sealing power of the ancient book. But even if there are many obstacles ahead, Chen Ronghuo still wants to give it a try. If this time, he can hold all three major towns in his hands, then he is equivalent to holding most of Beiwu Island in his hands. Boom boom boom. With this thought in his mind, Chen Ronghuo immediately dropped down, spread the natural disaster flames on his fists, and punched Tan Xiong's lord statue. Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui also joined the attack. Not far away, Tan Xiong's cold body was hanging on the gate of the lord's mansion in the important town of Xinwu. People in Xinwu city glanced at Tan Xiong's body, and when they heard the huge noise caused by Chen Ronghuo attacking Tan Xiong's lord statue, many of them were extremely angry. However, Chen Ronghuo and others are all third-level cultivators. Tan Xiong was dead, and another third-level cultivator in Xinwu city was not here. No matter how angry they were, it would not help. All he could do was watch helplessly as Chen Rong blasted Tan Xiong's statue of Lord with fire, gradually cracking it. Go to hell! Suddenly, a roar sounded from the Lord's mansion. Followed by a young man who looked somewhat similar to Tan Xiong, he held a big knife and came towards Chen Ronghuo. Chen Ronghuo turned his head, glanced at the young man, and frowned slightly. The next moment, while he was still attacking, he condensed the power of his soul into a needle shape and fired it at the young man. Plop! Silently, the young man fell to the ground with a thud. Through identification, Chen Ronghuo knew that this young man was a descendant of Tan Xiong. It's just that Tan Xiong's son has poor qualifications and low cultivation. He is only at the middle stage of the warrior realm. With such strength, even if Chen Ronghuo used the weak soul thorn, it would instantly hurt his soul and make him dizzy. After Chen Ronghuo knocked down Tan Xiong, the hot-blooded heir, to the ground with just one glance, there was a sudden silence around the Lord's mansion in the important town of Xinwu. Only in the distance, you can still hear the slight discussion of some unknown people. At the same time, Beiwu City. The three sons of Chang Sun Zhengzin, headed by Chang Sun Ping, all changed their expression slightly after hearing the sounds coming from Greenwater Bay Town and Xinwu Town. Ma Tianxiao is dead? Long Fiheng was seriously injured? No matter how you hear this, it feels unreal. But in their hearts, there was a sense of worry for no reason. Worrying about this, what will they do if it comes true? During this period of time, although the three of them themselves did not take any action, they had already sent out spies. But until now, the spies they sent out have not sent back any news. Brother, do you think Tan Xiong is really dead? Chang Sunsheng asked. Have no idea. Chang Sunping shook his head for the first time. At this time, even he didn't dare to guess easily. Boom. At this time, in the important town of Xinwu, Chen Ronghuo, Zhu Daipen, and Li Haishui, after a fierce attack on Tan Xiong's lord statue, finally more than 10 seconds later, with a bang, Tan Xiong's lord statue was beaten into rubble. Chen Ronghuo took a deep breath. Tan Xiong is powerful, but the power of faith in his lord statue is not particularly large. But the good thing is that this time, he found 6 divine attributes from Tan Xiong's lord statue. For him, divine attributes, to a certain extent, are actually equivalent to the power of faith. From today on, the important town of Xinwu belongs to me. After smashing Tan Xiong's lord statue, Chen Ronghuo immediately opened his natural disaster wings and flew into the sky like a demon in flames, reflecting his own figure in the eyes of all the people in Xinwu town. The people in Xinwu town saw Chen Ronghuo flying high in the sky. Seeing the two huge black and red wings extending from Chen Ronghuo like a demon god, more than 10 meters long, and the bursts of blazing flames emanating from them, no one dared to speak. For ordinary practitioners, all third-level practitioners are synonymous with powerful. In the eyes of these people, there is no distinction between the early, middle, late, or peak stages. Although Tan Xiong is powerful, he is far less powerful than Chen Ronghuo, who summoned the natural disaster demon wings. In addition, Chen Ronghuo carried the momentum to kill Tan Xiong, so all the people in Xinwu town lowered their heads when Chen Ronghuo's eyes swept over them. In a moment, Chen Ronghuo turned his head and looked at Li Haishui, who was still as thin as a stick even after practicing to the third level, and said, "Li Haishui, you stay here and wait for my order. In addition, all those who disobey in the Xinwu town will be killed without mercy. But you can also record those who perform well. Join our Lushwiven town in the future and reward them according to their merits." "Don't worry, Lord, I will definitely take care of the Xinwu town before you come back," Li Haishui replied immediately. With his strength, it is more than enough to guard the current Xinwu town. Chen Ronghuo nodded, and immediately took Zhu Daipen, turned into two streams of light, and quickly rushed to the Black Horse town. Boom boom boom. However, the two of them only drove a dozen miles before they heard the sound of the Lord's statue attacking Ma Tianxiao coming from the Black Horse town. Chen Ronghuo frowned slightly. Knowing that this must be the people who stayed in the Black Horse town, they had discovered the fact that Ma Tianxiao was dead through the statue of the Lord of Ma Tianxiao. Ah! But just as he was thinking this, the roar coming from the Black Horse town suddenly quieted down, and then suddenly a shrill and extremely miserable howl sounded. After this shrill and miserable howl, all the noises stopped abruptly. It was as if a terrifying existence had strangled his neck with a big hand. Chen Ronghuo's heart moved slightly, and he could vaguely guess what happened. Then he wanted to use the ancient book to calculate. But after thinking about it, he didn't waste his soul power in the end. At the same time, this was because he knew that he couldn't always rely on the power of the ancient book. Whoosh! Whoosh! Not long after, he and Zhu Daipen arrived at the Black Horse town from the Xinwu town. On the wall of the Black Horse town, every few dozen meters, there were several handsome black horse statues squatting. All the black horse statues have black mouths. Black horse stone crossbow, a stone crossbow with special array patterns. After 3 days of exposure to the sun, it can fire a flame crossbow arrow that is comparable to a second-level cultivator's attack. The number of crossbow arrows cannot be stacked. Chen Ronghuo only took a glance and knew the properties of those black horse statues. At the same time, he also saw that there were fully armed guards standing in front of each black horse statue. But when Chen Ronghuo and Zhu Daipen flew over, the guards looked at them and lowered their heads in fear. "Lord!" At this time, the figure of Huang Lin, dressed in black, suddenly walked out of the void near the city wall. "There are 3 third-level cultivators in the Black Horse town. One is not here, one was captured by me and Master Zhen, and one was killed on the spot by me. So far, Chen Ronghuo has broken through 2 major towns in a row. More will be added later. Thanks to Winterbee for the 1000 coin reward, Sunny Day Give for the 100 coin reward, and for the 100 coin reward.